This is the notorious life of Nico Jenkins. Nico Allen Jenkins was born in Colorado to the parents of David A. McGee and Lori Jenkins. It is noted that Jenkins' criminal history started as young as 7 years old when he was charged with bringing a firearm to school. Jenkins had a troubled life early on and had witnessed and been a victim to many traumatic events before the age of 8. Nico was in and out of juvenile hall, group homes, and also mental institutions. Nico struggled with things such as nightmares, wetting the bed, and very bad anxiety. Due to the things that he was experiencing at home, he was subsequently removed and put inside foster care. Leading up into adulthood, Nico spent majority of his time incarcerated or in mental institutions for mental health issues. The time that Nico was free, he was involved with gangs and began committing crimes in the area. He did crimes like assault and battery, robbery, and arson. Nico ended up getting caught up and eventually sentenced to 18 years for a carjacking that was committed when he was 15 years old. Nico would only complete 10 out of his 18-year sentence and be released back into the real world. August 2013 will be one of the most bloodiest months for the history of Omaha, Nebraska. Around 5:01 a.m., a patrol officer would discover 2 bodies near a city swimming pool at 18th and F Street in the Spring Lake Park area. The 2 victims will be identified as Juan Pera and George Ruiz. Both had been executed and their pockets had been turned inside out. The men had been lured there to meet 2 women for sexual favors. Nico's murder spree was less than 2 weeks after his release from prison. August 19th, around 1 a.m., the body of Chris Bradford was found outside a garage at 18th and Clark Street by a man returning home from work that morning. When homicide detectives showed up, they found 2 bullets inside the victim's torso. The crazy thing about the victim, Bradley, was that he had actually took a photo with Jenkins and posted it on Facebook prior to him being killed. Bradford would be the only victim familiar to Jenkins. Jenkins' 4th and final victim was Andrea Cougar, who was discovered August 21st at about 2:15 a.m. by the sheriff's deputy responding to shots being fired in the area. Her body was found lying in the road at 168th and 4th Street, with multiple wounds to her face, neck, and shoulder. Cougar had been returning home after a night of bartending. Surveillance showed her locking up the Deja Vu Lounge at 1:47 a.m. At 6:30 that night, Cougar's gold 2012 Chevy Traverse was found 12 miles away in an alley at 43rd and Charles Street. On August 30th, 2013, Jenkins was arrested on an unrelated threat charge. By then, the evidence against him had mounted. Investigators had the image of a female associate on surveillance footage at a local gun outlet buying some distinctive ammunition that was used in the murder. Additional footage had been pulled from the cameras along the route to Cougar's abandoned SUV. On the evening of September 3rd, Jenkins confessed to all 4 murders during a rambling 8-hour interrogation. Jenkins told the police that these murders were for an act of sacrifice for an Egyptian god. He was charged with 4 counts of murder following the confession. On February 19, 2014, Jenkins filed a federal lawsuit seeking $24.5 million from the state of Nebraska for wrongfully releasing him from prison. He stated that his claims of hearing voices from the Egyptian god got repeatedly ignored. In the 6-page handwritten filing, he stated that being kept in solitary confinement augmented his schizophrenia. He blamed correction officials for the 4 killings. Jenkins claimed that his problems were caused by mental illness and that he had schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and anxiety. The judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation, and a psychiatrist concluded that Jenkins had an antisocial personality disorder and was faking psychotic symptoms. After being declared competent to stand trial, Jenkins scored 68 on an administered IQ test. Jenkins was allowed to represent himself at trial under the guidance of the advisory of his attorneys. Throughout the trial, Jenkins maintained that he acts under the command of the Egyptian god. His courtroom antics included speaking in tongues, howling, laughing, as prosecutors recounted the deaths of the victims that were killed. On April 16, 2014, Judge Peter Battalion found Nico Jenkins guilty of all 4 murders. Jenkins was initially scheduled to be sentenced on August 11, 2014. The date was delayed indefinitely following a hearing held to determine whether he was capable of understanding death penalty proceedings against him. On July 29th, Judge Battalion ordered Jenkins to be housed at the Lincoln Regional Center Psychiatric Hospital until doctors were satisfied with his condition. Officials at the regional center refused to house Jenkins due to inadequate security, but the doctors agreed to treat him at the Lincoln prison. In May 2017, Jenkins was sentenced to death by a 3-judge panel. He was also sentenced to 450 years on weapons charges in connection with crimes. On April 20, 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear the appeal. This is the story of Nico Jenkins.